May I take the opportunity to welcome our Chief Minister Tamil Nadu. So how it looks is called back in 2008. You don't see it again at Starbucks. Starbucks was going through some problems and closed everything on its floor. And we went back to the basics to try to find out that a successful model, what had gone wrong with it. And we realized that the attraction in the Starbucks cafes was when somebody walked into the store. You smelled the coffee first. Then you saw this coffee being made across the counter and all the different various kinds of smart coffees. But over a period of time, to try and drive efficiency, the stores had started building very large coffee machines so that when you were standing to order your coffee, you could not see the coffee being made behind you. And the packaging process had improved so much that you had this fresh coffee beans in sealed packages which you could not smell anymore. So learning from that, you then made the machine smaller, ensured that this aroma of coffee filled up the cafes once again, and with that, Starbucks ended up becoming successful once again. So this is really the 5 traits, friends, of leadership. Leaders think different. Leaders inspire all of us. They walk the talk. Leaders also build other leaders. And finally, leaders never stop learning. Let me conclude by saying that we have the opportunity to learn every day from leadership around us. It's really up to us to grab those rails and make ourselves better leaders in times to come. Thank you. Let me also take this opportunity to welcome our dear Chief Minister. We are delighted to have him with us here on this platform of leadership, which is something not only relevant for industry, but also for the social political arena globally. It's my privilege, sir, to welcome you here today on behalf of CII. A former Union Minister, one of the longest serving and most senior ministers of the Lok Sabha, and the reigning Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, Tamil Nadu is known both for his astute vision as well as his go-getter attitude. He has been elected, as we know, 9 times from Chhindwara, and most recently led his party to victory in the assembly elections over here last year. But what many of you may not know is that many years ago, at the time when skilling was not necessarily thought of as a big priority for this country, Tamil Nadu also both the demand of the industry and the need of this country for a skilled workforce, and envisaged the creation of a skill center in Chhindwara, in Madhya Pradesh. The skill center, in association with CII, has been running successfully for the last many years, with 12 industry partners on board. It has trained almost 5,500 youth from various sections of society and given most of them good jobs. CII has had a long association with the Chief Minister, who has always been a great friend of industry. He leads through consensus and always takes into account the view of the industry whenever he is formulating relevant policies. So may I now invite the Honourable Minister to come and address us.
Mr. Sanjeev Bajaj, Mr. Anshul Patel, Praveen Agarwal, distinguished participants in this CII conclave. I am delighted to be here having participated in hundreds of CII programs, I've seen the transformation of CII from its original incarnation. For those who do not know, CII was not CII. It was the Indian IEAI or something like that. AIEI. And then, in the 90s, it transformed into the CII. I just heard Mr. Bajaj talk about the skill center of CII. Of course, that was the first skill center that CII put up. At that time, we never had Skill India slogans, but CII gave that slogan. So you know who you preceded in giving the slogan of Skill India. It was a skill center set up by CII. But what Mr. Bajaj did not say is that this skill center, established about 12 or 13 years ago, was the start of skilling. My district, Chhindwara, doesn't only have a CII skill center. It has several skill centers. And I'm proud to say that it's not just the largest number of skill centers in Madhya Pradesh, it's the largest number of skill centers in any district, not only in India, but in the world. It has skilling of all kinds, and skilling which transforms into jobs. Because the real test of skilling is what is the outcome. If somebody is skilled and he doesn't have a job, what is the use of that skilling? So there are many challenges in skilling also. Skilling is a skill, and that is the skill which can only make skilling a success. And the measurement of skilling is what was the outcome, how many either got self-employed or were able to get jobs. In this leadership conclave, the most important thing which comes to mind is the dramatic changes which have taken place in the last 15 years. The dramatic changes which are continuing to take place. Dramatic changes in structures, dramatic changes in trading patterns. Most important of them is technology. How technology is changing everything we do. Previously you bought a TV, and the TV lasted 5-6 years. Now if you buy a TV, by the time you learn to use the remote, there is another model. The lifespan of technology is changing. And it is the lifespan of technology, this changing lifespan of technology, which leaders have to recognize. In whatever business you are, even in services, we are seeing now the home delivery, we are seeing that the biggest auto users is the advent of Uber and Ola. In services is changing. So many services, banking is changing. That's because of technology. And technology is going to drive growth in the future. Technology will determine the success of entrepreneurs, of the business community, of industry. Previously, you set up a power plant, you employed 2,000 or 2,500 people. Today you employ 500 people. And that is what technology has done. Technology, we see classic examples in India. So many big names which fell by the wayside because they could not keep pace with change. The challenge will be, how do you recognize that change? How do you adopt that change, and how do you adapt to that change? Unless you will adopt it and adapt it to the dramatic change which is taking place, I think leadership will never succeed. So this is one of the biggest challenges, that how do we adopt and adapt to these changes? How we see world trade taking place, how the changes in world trade. When I was Commerce Minister, when we started in 2004, heading towards signing agreements, the context was completely different to what it is today. The biggest champions of free trade were the United States and Europe. Today, the United States is the biggest opponent of free trade. You saw countries who would oppose bilateral trade agreements between countries. Now everybody is talking of bilateral trade agreements. We used to be told, don't have any bilateral trade agreement, because this is a contradiction to the global trading pattern. It's changing. Countries are now looking at bilateral trade, looking at bilateral trading agreements. And this is where, again, leadership has to recognize the global changing patterns, because it's not necessary that you have to be an exporter. It's not necessary that your products are exported. It's not necessary that services are exported. But that will form the architecture of the economy in the future. And this architecture of the economy is what is going to determine how your business, how leaders will be able to steer and drive and shape their own corporate structures. And this, I think, is one of the most important things to recognize, that how the world is changing, looking at trade. We are seeing trade wars. We are seeing China under pressure. We are also seeing an Indian economy which is under pressure. We all know the Indian economy is under pressure. And unless we are able to recognize, unless we are able to accept, there is a feeling that nothing is wrong. That's the biggest mistake we can make. In the four-wheeler and two-wheeler industry, I've always said this, and I said this in many speeches, that the index of growth is the two-wheeler industry. That is what determines the economic activity of the country. And what you see on your screen of per capita income, that you see on your screen, what don't you see on your screen? What you do not see on your screen is the disposable per capita income. 8,000 rupee or 10,000 rupee job in Mumbai or Pune or Bangalore or Delhi means nothing. You can't survive on it. But an 8 or 10,000 rupee job in other parts of the country, in my own district, means one SUV. Because it's a disposable income. He is going to get a loan. And it is this disposable income which drives the Indian economy. So, how do we generate economic activity? By saying the construction sector needs to be stimulated. Can we do it? By saying this sector, let's reduce the GST on autos. Will that happen? Reducing it by 2-3%, you all know it won't happen. By 2-4%, there's somebody who gets a 2,000 rupees buying a 6-8 lakhs rupees vehicle. If he stays 10-15,000 more or less, makes no difference. But again, it is the sentiment. And we all know how the sentiment has got affected. Sentiment drives investment. Sentiment drives investment. There are such great investment opportunities in Africa, in South America, in Central America. But there is no investment sentiment. So unless the sentiment is also right, everything else will be perfect. Everything will be perfect. Business model will be perfect. But investment sentiment is not there. It's not going to happen. So this is what the leadership needs to understand. In global trade, we are seeing changing Europe. We are seeing a more nationalistic Europe. We are seeing a more nationalistic United States. We are seeing aging economy, aging population, whether it's Japan or Germany, how they've over the years shifted their manufacturing operations. This is what we want to smell. This is what we want to foresee. And that is what will define leadership. Having said that, I must say that agriculture is a very important thing in India. And although sitting in CII, people don't recognize the importance of agriculture. In Madhya Pradesh, 70% of the population of Madhya Pradesh is dependent upon agriculture. In a village, a kirana shop, a provision shop, his shop is dependent on the income of the farmer, on the purchasing power of the farmer. If the farmer doesn't have purchasing power, it doesn't happen. His shop is not going to run. The person who repairs tractors. So 70% of the people are dependent upon agriculture. How do we, and the national figure would be about 50%. We many times quietly put this 50% aside. But unless they drive what I was saying, the disposable income, it is the agricultural sector which drives the disposable incomes. And if the agricultural sector is going to be under distress, the whole economy will be under distress. What we are seeing today is just not happening because of the last 6 months or 8 months. This is on the angle. For the last 2 years, then we are seeing farmer suicide. We are seeing big growth. We are trumpeting growth in agricultural production. What does that mean? Agricultural production has gone up. The problem 20 years ago was a problem of shortages. Today, it's a problem of excess in agriculture. How do we deal with the excess? The challenge is different. If there is a shortage, you can import. But what happens when you have excess? That is what it is. And I did a calculation when I was Commerce Minister. I did a calculation in the context of the world and in India, that how many people in India eat one meal a day? Tell me, how many people in India eat one meal a day? What happens if they start eating 2 meals a day? What will it do to food? What will it do to transportation? What will it do to logistics? What happens when those number of people who have a mere 2 meals? What happens when we start having a better 2 meals per day? What will it do to our farming? And it was startling. It was mind-boggling. What it would do to agriculture. I did this in the context of global trade negotiations. And what would happen if everybody in the developing countries, whether it's South America, Central America, whether it's Asia, starts having 2 meals a day? What will be the food requirement? What will be the logistics? What will we need? How will this food be cooked? All these challenges are the challenges which we are going to face. And in agriculture, we have to, the challenge today is a challenge of excess, not a challenge of shortage. How does a farmer get a right price? Right price means inflation. When we were in government, there was a constant quarrel in the cabinet whether we should increase the minimum support price. Constant quarrel. And I suggest you go and see on the internet today. What was the MSP, the minimum support price for agriculture, between 2004 and 2014, and from 2014 till today? We every year would increase the minimum support price to keep stimulating the rural economy. We brought in the Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. What? To stimulate purchasing power. Because somebody who is just doing nothing and now he gets some work on the employment guarantee scheme, it's a disposable income. He'll go and buy a new sari. He'll buy a new cycle. So these were decisions. But what did it lead to? It led to inflation. The inflation between 2010 and 2014 was very high. But every developing country across the world, history says that, has to have inflation. So if you target zero inflation, what's going to be the consequences of zero inflation? So the MSP from 2014 wasn't increased. The MSP wasn't increased. The rural sector went down 50% of the population. In Madhya Pradesh, 70% of the population was impacted. What happened? It hits consumer products, it hits white goods, it hits industry, it hits everything. So, we got to recognize this. There are certain basics which I think sometimes, I have no hesitation in saying, CII becomes oblivious to. CII sometimes is in its own orbit. There's just not one orbit in our country. There are many, many orbits. And we are seeing today tremendous urbanization.